Hey there, welcome to this Unicorn Studio tutorial. In this video, we are going to create the black hole from the reflect.app website. This is a popular one, very cool. You might remember if you've seen the performance video, I actually showed a scene like this that was created in Unicorn Studio. But that was a while ago and somebody just asked in the Discord, so I thought I would make a new one. October 2025 edition. We'll go through it layer by layer and see how it's done from scratch. First, we're going to think about what is actually happening here in this scene. We have a inner ring here, then we have an outer ring that kind of looks like space dust. If we look closely, it's expanding outward, it has like a cool texture, and it looks like it's rapidly rotating. And the whole thing's got this very cool, natural, purplish pink glow. So we're gonna have to figure out how to stack beam layers and stretch and add some texture in a way that feels like it achieves this effect. So let's get started. I have made this a couple times. I've made this beforehand, so I've practiced. But we'll see how it goes as we walk through it from scratch. First thing I'm gonna do is get the horizon beam. I'm not going to use line. I'm going to use this one, vesica. It's kind of an eyeball shape. And I'm going to make this represent the horizon line. And I'm also going to do it in black and white. And you'll see why soon. So we will also anchor everything to the bottom of the screen. I don't want to actually make the full black hole because, you know, this can be an image in your blurred UI or whatever, but like this black hole is sort of designed to sit on top of something on your website. So let's just do the top half of it. I think that'll make our lives a lot easier. What is next? So next we want to have the outer ring. So we're going to combine this horizon with something that can be that outer ring. And originally I tried using the Nova beam, but if you look here, it's got a very sharp edge, this kind of whole texture ring where it meets the inner ring, which is a soft glow. Like we will use Nova for that. So for that, we're going to use 2D SDF, and it's got this tint. We can actually invert it. So this is going to give us a glow that only goes from the outside of the shape rather than on both sides, like the beam effect. Again, we will go black and white. I'm going to just kind of eyeball the scale here. And you can see it also is kind of adding a little distortion. So also, just so that we see everything and it looks just like the Reflect app, not everything is anchored perfectly on the bottom. I'm going to use 94% on the y-axis for everything. Everything that's part of the main black hole. So we're going to kick up this mix to like 200, maybe even 250, just so that it expands out nicely. And you'll see that when we add the gradient map for the color, we want to make sure there's enough glow that it really gets picked up. Okay, so we have that. Now the part that we need to do next is the texture, the kind of space rings. So I'm actually going to open a new project for this because we're going to make the texture in Unicorn Studio, of course. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a vertical line texture using noise. And we'll find out what this is going to do. But I'm going to just make this, you know, really big, skew, and set the angle to 0. And, you know, I want even more texture here. And what we're going to do is we're going to wrap this texture using the polar effect in a circle. So these are the rings, but we're just seeing it in an unwrapped state. So you can see it's got a lot of nice, interesting texture, and it's going to have a very natural looking feel. But going back to our inspiration, you know, it's got like a lot of interesting detail in here. They're not just straight lines. So we are going to add a little bit of texture to our texture with FBM. I'm going to drop this all the way, almost all the way down, amplitude, turn up the gain, and scale. And so you can see it has a much more organic feel to it when we do that. Maybe just slightly more. And I'm going to kick up the scale a bit more too. And I kind of want to have this part be a little bit lighter. And you'll see why in a second. Okay, so I'm just going to export that. WebP half doesn't need to be high res. And then now we'll go back here. And you can see this is my trial run. Okay, now relative. I want it to, scale proportionally with the scene. In order to understand what we're going to do with this, we're going to have to add the polar effect, and that'll make it all very clear. There we go. So there's going to, I'm going to have to play around with this a little bit to make it fit. I think we want to go full height because the polar goes from left to right. And now this can kind of help me figure out exactly how I want it to be. And we will control the scale like that, but also we're going to center it here and do 94% on the y-axis. You can see how the polar repeats here at the end. We don't need to worry about that because we are going to use one of our blend modes here. Suppose it's going to be overlay. All right. Now, I want to make sure that the edges line up correctly with our 2D SDF shape. In fact, I'll just start naming these here. This is horizon beam. This is going to be ring beam. This is space dust. Okay, and here you go. We have our rotating space dust. I'm going to actually make that reverse because the dust rotates counterclockwise in the reflect.app scene. We're going to play with that a little bit. Okay. Another thing is that it kind of like expands outwards. The way to do that is we're going to make this slightly offset so it kind of looks like it's spiraling, like corkscrewing almost. Maybe not too much. And actually I'm going to want to turn up the blend a lot. So now it's got a subtle spiraling effect. We can see it's rotating or it's expanding outwards ever so slightly, just like the scene we want to recreate. Okay, now stretch. This is a new effect. Well, it's actually it's a remake of an old effect. Gives us a new option that we didn't have when the first black hole scene was created. And we have this new control over X and Y, which we didn't have before. But yeah, we basically just want to stretch this out in a way that looks right. It gets the right amount going there. You can even add a little bit of that. That's okay. All right. Next, I think it's time to put our inner ring on there. We'll do ring, no, sorry, Nova. Thickness, again, we're going to go black and white. That looks okay. 94. Okay. Scale it up a little bit. Thickness, maybe too much. Horizon beam, knock it down. Okay, so let's now try the color. This is kind of hard. It's wrangling the gradient map effect. Getting it perfect isn't easy. Um, okay, that's good. I'm noticing that we have too much color from our outer ring, I think, because I want the space dust to drop off naturally. And maybe that just means we need to make it lighter. So we're getting a lot of light fall off. Maybe it's from this. I don't know. Yeah, it could be from that. Okay, so I think knocking that down helps. All right, let's go to the gradient map. Now we have our new option, wrap. Mirror is the default. Repeat does not wrap it. I think this gives us a little bit more control over the look of the gradient, getting it to be perfect, because it really has to be perfect to work for this scene. And I'm just going to add, colors that make sense here. So this is the general shape. Now let's get this oriented, in a way that works. It's a little confusing. There. Okay. Just looking for that point where we have the black point, and now I can adjust all this stuff. It's just really about playing here. All right, so this doesn't look like what we're going for, but rather than using bloom, which is what I did the first time, I tried using fog, which actually gives it a really great bloom. And we can use the screen effect. And if I kick up the density, it really gives it that nice glow here. All right. So now, just going to try to just adjust some things to make it look a little more correct. Yeah, maybe we got too much space dust. Going to knock back the opacity a little bit. Ring beam, maybe a little too big. This is going to be called inner ring. Maybe a little too big as well. Knock down the thickness a little bit. And we want a tighter gap. I think, yes, pretty tight gap there. All right, and let's just see. Play with our stretch a little bit. Horizon beam. Yeah, sure, why not? There's pink is a little, probably should be a little stronger. Yeah. Play with the size of the space dust. I think the dust looks better when it's smaller. It looks more high res. Pick up that inner ring. It's starting to look good. Let's do some adjustment. Whoop, there. Okay. Think that's perfect. Maybe we're a little too blue on this color. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And let's get our fog. Let's just check it out. Ooh, nice. A little more luminance there. We don't want any extra scatter. And we could also just even limit it so it doesn't go the whole way. We'll put the fog right in the middle. All right. Yeah, I would say that's pretty good. This is my first run. This one's a little different looking, but pretty convincing. And as far as actually running this on your site, it's not so bad. It's polar on the space dust, and then these four effects. We can even go to the optimized studio and take a look. 10 draws per frame. You can get away with 1 DPI. 162 megs of memory. Yeah, it's not bad. You could run it. I think it's probably better as a looping video, but with this setup, I think you'd be okay. All right. I think we did a good job here. Thanks for watching.